Spotify's all like killing the attention span of people. It's almost like we have this streaming platform ADHD now, you know? It's just rough.
This is a deeper listen from listener-powered KEXP. It's the show every week where we talk with musicians about the thoughts and the experiences that shape their music. I'm Roddy Nikpour. Now, we love talking with artists who you already know and love, but part of the joy of this podcast is getting to talk to artists who are working right alongside those bands that you already know. For example, take today's artist, Jesse Beaman. He is a composer and a visual artist based in Mexico City. His career consists of tours across 4 continents, writing music with members of Interpol and M83. Jesse is one of these musicians whose work you probably hear without realizing who he is, like in this clip where he does the score for a National Geographic special exploring Arctic islands in Russia.
This place is melting like a popsicle in Arizona in the summertime.
Lately, Jesse has been making an effort to step out of the bylines into a spotlight of his own through his solo career. He's written several ambient-leaning albums, including his first official full-length, Mira, which came out in 2021. And even before that, he used to have a one-man post-rock outfit by the name My Empty Phantom. And this year, Jesse put out his second full-length album, What Was There, Now Is Not. I got to talk with Jesse about his ties to Latin America, the inspiration for his new record, and his outspoken stance against Spotify. He was speaking to me from his mother's house in Corpus Christi, Texas, on his way home back from a tour. I want to start with kind of the way I got to know about you and your music, because one big theme of your career, I think, is connections and being connected. I've read that you've performed with all kinds of artists, like fellow ambient composers like Juliana Barwick, and the heavy-hitting post-rock offshoot of Godspeed You Black Emperor, the Silver Mount Zion Orchestra. I personally discovered you when you were opening for the band This Will Destroy You on their tour in 2025. And on that tour, This Will Destroy You actually had a Live on KEXP session taped, which you apparently helped hook up for them. So lots of connections already, but can you tell me just about that connection with This Will Destroy You? Like, how did you get to know those guys and get on tour with them?
Oh, yeah. They were kind of the group out of Texas that was really extensively touring and kind of making a name for themselves. And I always admired them and their sound. And This Will Destroy You also was playing their very first shows, like in the region of Texas that I kind of grew up, like in Central Texas, outside of San Antonio. And I remember, I think the first time I played a show with them was in Denton, Texas, kind of like a music town in north of Dallas. And I was really excited about that show, and I got to meet them. And then over the years, I started opening a couple of other shows for them when they were in Texas.
So you talked about playing a lot in Texas, but I know you were born in Florida and then you lived in New York and then made your way to Texas. And now you're actually based in Mexico City, right? So I'm very curious, like, when did you move there? What brought you there? Tell me about the music scene in Mexico City. Tell me what it's like from your perspective as an ambient musician and all those things.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, actually, my birth parents were refugees from Nicaragua, and they were escaping like the Nicaraguan civil war in like the late 80s. And they already had family, they already had like kids and stuff. And so when my birth mom went to the US and gave birth to me, she had to put me up for adoption because she couldn't like afford to keep me because of all the family she already had. And so when I was adopted at birth, my family who adopted me, we moved to New York. It's a little confusing where it's like I'm Nicaraguan, born in Miami, but also I was adopted by like a Mexican man. So people kind of affiliate me with being Mexican, but then I have to kind of explain that I'm not, but I am Hispanic. So it's kind of funny like that. So when we went to New York, I basically lived in Manhattan until I was like 8. And after that, my parents who adopted me, they were like originally from Texas and Mexico. So they wanted to go back. And that's how I ended up back in Central Texas, basically.
Well, I guess that's what I'm wondering. So Mexico City from Texas, was that a decision you made from there as an adult, or did you go there with your family, or how did that?
There's a couple of reasons. Like first was probably like a way to identify with my Latino roots as like through Mexican culture, because I rarely ever have met a Nicaraguan. I think I've only met like 2, so it was always kind of strange to be Latino, but not know Spanish, but also being mistaken for like the wrong Latino my whole life as well. So that's always kind of funny. But also growing up as a kid, my parents would take me to Mexico all the time, like going deep into these mountains and on these like really cool adventures where I would be like buying honey, like on the side of the road in like the most like remote place ever. And so Mexico has just been one place that's kind of always been in my life. Both my parents from Texas, like one grew up in Mexico and then the other grew up on the border of Texas and Mexico, so my grandparents lived like 5 minutes from Mexico. Also, I was in my early career, like in music with My Empty Phantom, I was signed to like a Mexico City record label, Pedro y Lobo. Basically, they used to host a lot of great concerts for me down there when I would be touring. I would always tour through Mexico City every year because it was close to Austin, so definitely a big part of it was like the vibrance of the city, just like they have a lot of very beautiful music venues down there that I just would not have access to play in Austin if I was living in Austin. And I would record down there and just had all these really great experiences.
You've toured a lot. You've toured obviously North America, South America, Europe, Australia. And what's cool about that, not only getting to experience those places, is that you've crossed paths with so many other artists too. And so, one big reason I want KEXP listeners to know who you are is because your connections are with artists who we play a lot of on the station. So again, I mentioned Interpol at the top. Oh, she's back. Sam Fogarino drummed on your 2021 album Mira.
Actually, Sam and me did 2 tracks together, sort of like this kind of one-off kind of thing, which was real fun. And yeah, he's cool.
Brandon Curtis is someone who helped mentor you on your 2021 album Mira.
I almost feel like Brandon was like kind of on that album, but he had me like perform everything. But yeah, Brandon was crucial for that. He's so cool. Even like when he met me, I was like 27 or 28 or something. And he really kind of just helped me, like cheering me on, I guess you could say, like sort of making me feel like confident in my music much more than what I really was, just giving me pointers on how to look after myself in the industry. And he always brushes it off like, nah, man, no problem. So Brandon's a great guy.
You have a side project with Joe Barry of M83, is that right?
Yeah, me and Joe also have this collaborative friendship where we sort of met because we were going to play a show together, like where he was going to play solo and I was going to play solo in LA, but then it had to get canceled because of the pandemic. So we ended up staying in touch, and then we kind of like have just been passing stuff back and forth. We definitely have like a folder of things that we're trying to get to. But I needed to kind of finish my album and finish my touring. And he was touring with M83 like a year or two ago, and they were doing like 80 shows or something. But me and Joe definitely have something that I think we'll put out eventually, like probably sooner than later at this point, because things have cleared up a little bit. But yeah, we're definitely collaborative friends, I would say.
I'd love to air a snippet.
Opened my mind to like wanting to be more collaborative, just like my whole career has sort of been based off of solo performing and everything like that. But now it's starting to kind of branch more into like collaborative efforts with people and filmmaking, telling other people's stories. There's just a lot of things I'm getting more interested in.
That's a really great segue, because one thing I definitely wanted to talk about was, in addition to being a musician, you work with musicians a lot. First of all, actually, in co-founding your own label, Max Min, and you've had the role in helping produce documentaries for a couple of musicians, Tangerine Dream, the German electronic band. But also a documentary for the synth composer and label executive Suzanne Ciani. Talk to me about not only how you made those connections, but like how did you learn and decide you wanted to do visual, like film work, storytelling with musicians, and how'd you shove your foot in that door?
Yeah. Before I played music, I was actually really obsessed with painting. Like I would paint a lot when I was a teenager. And then I kind of got into music because I was always playing music since I was very little, self-teaching myself drums at first. But it's just really interesting how certain things will like lead you to other things, like for almost 10 years, I was just doing music and touring. But then after touring and not really being able to put on the shows the way I want to, because I'm not like able to get the visuals that I want up, or no one's running the visuals, or, there was always like something that I was chasing. It was almost like I was constantly trying to chase, like, how can I put on like the best show that I can put on? And it was just so hard because, I wasn't making enough money, so I couldn't pay anyone to really shoot visuals for me or even manipulate the visuals for me. So I told myself, like, I think I just have to buy like a nice camera myself and make my own visuals and then learn how to edit them myself, because no one's going to do this for me, and I have this vision, I have this like idea of like how I want a concert that I put on, like how I want it to make people feel, or like how I want it to take people on a journey, and I'm desperately trying to like create this thing, and it's almost like you're trying to create this thing for like a decade, and you're just like, how do I chip away at making this happen or whatever, So through learning all that, I started to get more interested in like learning how to tell other people's stories, and I started collaborating with this guy who's the owner of a synthesizer company that refurbishes analog synthesizers called Centaur.
Hi, I'm Sam from Centaur. And if you own a Korg Electribe, specifically the EMX1 or the ESX1, I've got some good news for you.
I started working with Sam Mims, who's kind of like a legend in the synthesizer community, and he's known for making YouTube films for his synth channel.
The buttons are in strips like this, rubber strips, and on the back of each button are these black lines, black dots.
I kind of started to collaborate with him because I had already opened shows for Suzanne Ciani, and I'd collaborated live with Tangerine Dream, Hashiko. So I started to kind of work with him, and I started to be like putting the pieces together on like, well, I know some of the people from Tangerine Dream, like maybe we can all collaborate and put this little documentary together when they come through Texas to play. And then the Suzanne Ciani one, we went up and filmed her, and I interviewed her, and that should be coming out pretty soon, which I'm pretty excited about. She's one of the most like legendary, I mean, those are both like very legendary pioneers in the music world. So I feel kind of like it's a little bit funny that I've fallen into like these small documentary like projects, and they're just two artists that I never would have imagined that I'd be able to work with, much less play shows with and collaborate with. So so I'm starting to see myself a little bit more than really just a musician. I really just do things, and I really just enjoy creating and telling a story regardless, like if it's mine or someone else's.
Now, to put you in the spotlight, you're a musician unto yourself, and you've got your new album, What Was There Now Is Not. And I guess my overall assessment, just by the song titles alone, there's some heavy themes of like cosmic wonder and difficult transitions. Let's just start with talk to me more about the title of the album, What Was There Now Is Not, and maybe some of the general themes across the album. And then I'll get into some specific songs.
The album kind of started off being inspired by me just desperately needing to make music, because for like half a year I just didn't even touch instruments. I was just like feeding my mom, like trying to take care of her, and then dealing with like my grandma passed away, two of my good friends passed away, my uncle passed away, like all in this like short period of time, So this also kind of like led me to moving to Mexico. So I ended up calling my friend who has a lot of really beautiful land in Mexico. So I asked him if I could go out there and start writing an album. And so that's kind of like where the album title comes from. It's just, how things are always changing, like what was once there will be gone in a certain amount of time. Things are just always moving, changing. So I kind of just went all in on the album, like go to a mountain, like get into it, like let yourself feel how you want to feel.
So that explains the song Melody in the Mountain, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And as you're talking about all these people you've lost, obviously that explains the very first song on the album. So This Is Our Goodbye.
For sure. And actually specifically that one, my grandmother, because my grandma she was very like crucial in my music world, because she like really supported me, and she bought me my first like keyboard to get started. So I actually opened the tour with that song.
Mm-hmm.
I believe.
I remember that. I was going to actually say that because that crunchy sound on the synth, I don't know, when you opened your live set with the song, I was thinking, this is not just some opener that I need to like have a conversation over. I'm actually going to be invested in this. And it was just a really like hypnotic sound. It's kind of a very specific gritty synth sound that I loved hearing. And so
Awesome.
I just wanted to say that. Earlier you were talking about like getting the perfect show down, and I feel like something I noticed about your live show, it was that you had, again, some drums in addition to the synth. And so what I loved about the song The Sun and the Moon, hearing that on the album, I was like, oh, this feels toned down compared to the live, because live you're actually like pivoting physically from your synths to these drum, tom, snare, and cymbal, and it reminds me of someone like Slow Magic. So tell me about like why you decided to incorporate the dynamics into the live set. Why not just keep it on the synth?
In a way, I guess I look at the live show as an opportunity to like go deeper on an idea that you already kind of solidified in a recording process, Like in a way, I always feel like songs don't necessarily have to be fully done. I mean, maybe the recording version is done, and maybe it'll never be re-recorded again, and that's fine. But it's cool that like live, you can always evolve a song. some people really want to hear the album like exactly the way it's made. Me, not so much. Like, I love when an artist like will add a little melody or extend a song or play a slower version of the song or whatever. And so once I listen to the album, I start to think, I'm like, oh, I could have added this here, or I didn't even think about that until like months later or something, And then live, I'm just like, well, I have every right to try it. It's my music. So that's kind of why I decided to like add certain dynamics to the show. And, hopefully I'll do a live album.
But it's okay for those moments to be ephemeral too. Like, I support obviously recording a live album, but I've been really taking a lot of comfort in the idea of like, you can just like play music and like not record it sometimes.
Totally. Yeah. It's like, it doesn't have to be recorded for you to be like, I play music or whatever, I don't know.
There's so much pressure to like commodify every single thing you do as an artist. And sometimes it's nice to just like let the moment happen. And
100%, Roddy. Like, I think about that a lot. And sometimes I think about like my best moments are in the moments where I'm not like, I actually do tune out of thinking of writing something and I'm just playing. And I'm like, wow, that was like cooler than anything I've ever done. And I'll never capture that moment again, whatever.
I want to talk about with you too, I think there's a lot of pressure for musicians, for at least 100 years probably, but especially now with streaming, to be putting music on Spotify, YouTube, and all these platforms. But you're joining the ranks of other artists like Deerhoof who they're pulling their music off of Spotify specifically because of the CEO's investment in AI-powered military weapons. I've seen a lot of musicians follow suit. Obviously, like, there's plenty of music still on Spotify, and some musicians have still said, like, well, it's still good from a bottom line. So I guess what I'm wondering is, in putting your album out, what was there now is not. When you put that album out, you'd never started it on Spotify or YouTube, I think. And so I'm wondering if you want to talk about your reasonings for not being on those platforms. Is it tied to the same reasons as Deerhoof? Like, how do you tackle this from a business standpoint of getting people to actually hear the thing, but also like the convenience standpoint of like, well, streaming, so many people stream music now, right? So is Bandcamp enough for that? Just get into that with me. Yeah.
It's definitely like a huge challenge, like I definitely think I made things harder for myself, but at the same time, in a perfect position to maybe live by example. It's not like I have a lot to lose or whatever, but I'm not trying to be like too radical about it. But at the same time, I am trying to be like, this is kind of not cool. Like some of where this is moving to. Basically, with my old record label, when I was in My Empty Phantom, like doing my older project, they were getting me on a lot of playlists. They were, paying a distribution company that was paying Spotify that would get me on big instrumental, playlist and things that would put me in front of people that would like my music, right? So my Spotify went from not many people listening to me because I was very DIY to my record label boosting it up, and then it had a lot of listeners and blah, blah, blah. But then when my record label kind of told me that they were going to call it quits and they're basically shutting it all down, it kind of just like showed me what Spotify really was, because like I had already been touring for like 10 years. Like I had played great festivals, like already opened shows for great artists, and once my label like took away my distribution, it was just like my numbers just crashed. It was almost as if I just never was a musician ever. You know what I mean? It made me kind of see like, oh, like, so this is definitely like a pay to play game. Like labels have to pay someone. And this is like normal across like business in general, like with marketing, distribution. I get that. But that was the first thing that kind of made me see like, oh, wait a minute, this is like a total system that like my career is now being relied on. Like, is someone going to pay for me to get boosted, or am I going to pay for me to get boosted? And then I started to kind of look a little more into it and just kind of thinking about like the destroying of an album, like the concept of an album has changed so much. Like searching for music was like used to be such a big part of the experience of discovering music, and that's kind of gone. And then a lot of these playlists are just kind of these like repetitive themes that don't really have like a point to them or any concept. And so it's like albums are being brushed off just to put people in these mood playlists that don't really have like a purpose. They're just like these mood playlists. I don't know. It's just especially the type of music I like. I feel like that's so important to that kind of music. And they really, like, Spotify's all like just killing the attention span of people. It's almost like we have this streaming platform ADHD now, and it's just rough. It's rough. They made it to where it's like just so hard for small artists. Like, it needs 1,000 plays within 12 months just to get like any royalties paid to you. So it's like they just do these tiny things that are just making smaller artists just like so irrelevant. It's like the only artists that matter are like Bad Bunny and like Taylor Swift. And so, yeah.
This is a big topic, and we talk about it a lot on this show. And there's so much more to say, but I think in the context of your music, right, especially it being ambient, instrumental, I want to come back to that question of like, how do you want people to listen, right? Because I think that Bandcamp is a great start. It's like I guess it's not necessarily a streaming platform, but it is like an online digital music. You can own the MP3s if they buy it from you, but like, is that your preference? You want people to listen on Bandcamp, or are you a vinyl guy, CD? Like what do you think the future of music should look like? Music listening should look like?
That's hard. Ooh.
Sorry, that's a big question.
That's a big question for me. But I don't think Bandcamp is like my last effort of like getting people music. Like, oh, just go to my Bandcamp and buy it digitally. It's like, no, I do want to get them like a vinyl. And it's funny because I've never pressed a vinyl yet, but this album is going to be the first one that I want to press one on, because I am not having it on Spotify. So I told myself like, okay, I want to press it for next year's touring, because I also want people to have something physical of mine, just because it feels kind of like a piece of artwork that can be like cherished. But I'm not also someone to really say like how people should listen to music.
Yeah, sorry, that was a loaded question. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked it like that.
No, it's okay. I kind of understand what you mean. Just like how I hope people like take in music, and I hope people take it in as like something that they can learn from, grow from, relate to other people with, and I think that's like the problem a little bit with Spotify is like the attention span is kind of hurting people. So I think if you can just give music the focus that it deserves, I'll be happy, and I definitely think like Spotify and certain things aren't making it easier for people to really like take it in properly. I think it's all just like too fast and too rapid, and just like before you can even get connected to an artist, they're trying to sell you on another artist.
It's so full circle, because that's the thing I keep coming back to is connection, right? I mean, not just you being connected to other artists, but like the listener being connected to you through your music as the artist. Like, that's a huge part of listening to and making and listening to music, is that connection. People want to hear the humanness in it. Music is not necessarily always a transactional experience where it's like, oh, I need to study, so I need these lo-fi beats done. It's like,
exactly.
When I listen to is what was there now is not, I want to not only feel some experience in me, but I want to feel your experience, right, as the composer, and as like, and ideally listen to podcasts like this that shed light on what you were going through, whatever. But like, even if you don't listen to a deeper listen, it's like, I can feel something from this music that connects me with Jesse, and vice versa in some ways, that like when your music can speak to someone, and whatever, it's up to the listener to decide if Spotify is preventing that or not. But
and also I think like just my last thing I would say about like that topic is, I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but it's like a moral thing too. It's like, I do understand why like King Gizzard and like Deerhoof are like, hey, this AI weapon stuff, that's just too far. Like if money that is being made off of streams for music is now being used for stuff like that, it's like, oh my God, like what are we doing to one of our most precious things that we have as humans is like music. It's like one of the most magical things that we all need, and we're kind of using it for the wrong reasons. And they're able to kind of like surveillance you through these playlists, like your moods and stuff, so they can kind of manipulate that. And then corporate companies will use that into their advantage to like market certain things. So the CEOs of Spotify, I think, were even from the advertisement like backgrounds, so they were more like, they're actually kind of like an advertisement company just disguised as like a music streaming platform, So there's just so much that I'm like, I've gotten into it, but it's so hard to explain these things to someone at a show. And then also I don't want to come off like a big bummer, And I'm sure I have more to learn. Like, I'm sure I have some stuff to learn, and I don't know everything, So I'm aware that, maybe I'm wrong about some stuff, but I think it's cool to like take that leap to just be an example of like, hey, like I can still go on these great tours. I worked really hard and I'm still here, and I'm not following like the line that they say we have to be it, trying to take the industry back a little bit.
The way we always conclude our interviews with artists is by asking if you could just pick like one song from another artist that is either inspiring you or you just can't get enough of as a music fan yourself, what would it be?
Right now, I'm like huge fan of this West African musician named Sona Jabarte. She has a song called like Dunno, I think. It's like Dunoo. And like her music is incredible. She plays like this instrument called the kora, I think. And it's like only an instrument that men were allowed to play. And she's the first female to ever play it. I'm someone who loves effect pedals and distortions and delays and things like that. But what I love about her music is it's just raw, acoustic African Gambian music. And I honestly think she's like one of the best musicians I've ever heard. So I recommend her.
I appreciate you making time to talk, Jesse. This has been awesome.
Oh, I really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Like, I'm really thankful.
And that was A Deeper Listen. I was just at a public radio conference last week, and it really helped underscore the value of your role in helping this podcast survive the federal budget cuts. Specifically in helping get the word out. Yes, the word of mouth recommendation that you can provide is one of the best ways for people to discover A Deeper Listen, and really every podcast we do here at KEXP. So I hope you'll take a moment right after this is over, share this episode with someone who you know in real life. That'll help us a ton. And of course, the other way that we depend on our listeners is through your donations. When thousands of people come together and support something that you believe in, it is the most democratic thing that there is. And I just hope that you'll trust me on that and take that leap if you're not already an amplifier. Please consider donating just $6 a month at kexp.org/deeper. Thank you to those of you who are amplifiers. Thanks again to Jesse Beaman for talking with me today. Thank you also to Janice Headley for web design and Matt Ogaz for audio mastering. My name's Roddy Nikpour, and thank you for taking a deeper listen. Take care. This one's for Daisy. We can shout Daisy out.
Shout out Daisy. Sorry, Daisy. I'll be back.
Her dad's just winning that bread, okay?
Exactly. It's dog treats.